Thomas J. Watson, founder of IBM, once said, and I quote, "You can get capital and erect buildings, but it takes people to build a business." A very warm welcome to our keynote speaker, Sajin Matai, co panelist Ms. Anjali, other esteemed panelists, faculty members, fellow Christites, and the audience who have joined us from far and wide. I am Shahana MP, and it is my privilege to be the moderator for the session. Daksh is an annual education career guidance fair organized by the Student Council of Christ deemed to be university. It focuses on various opportunities made available to pre university, undergraduate, and postgraduate students. The platform enables students to acquire knowledge and make informed choices regarding their higher education and careers. Career dialogue is a distinctive feature of Daksh, wherein eminent and established figures from diversified fields are invited to share their invaluable experiences, accompanied with their expert opinion about future prospects by lying ahead for students wishing to pursue a career in these fields. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our speaker for the session, Sajin Matai, who will be gracing this occasion with his insights on career opportunities in human resource management. Sajin Matai is a senior director at Oracle India with over 20 years of experience in HR. He has worked in areas of HR transformation, leadership development, employee engagement, performance and talent management, personal values clarification and alignment to business values, employee relations, and HR compliance investigations, 360 feedback coaching and development centers. Prior to Oracle, he worked in Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, Peninsula Petro Engineering, and EWI Engineers and Consultants Private Limited. He completed his graduation and post graduation in management from St. Joseph's College, Bangalore, and EGMP from IIM Bangalore. Along with Sir, we also have Anjali ma'am present here with us today. She is a Christ alumni and she also works with Oracle India. So we're very excited to hear from you. Before I hand it over to you, so I would like to point out for the benefit of the audience that any questions for the speaker can be posted in the comment section of the YouTube live stream. Another important announcement for Christites, please make sure to fill the attendance and feedback form that will be circulated in the YouTube chat box compulsorily. Without further ado, I humbly request you, sir, to begin with your talk. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much and very good morning to all of you. I'm humbled with the introduction. I'm humbled with all that you said about me. It's my great pleasure to be associated with the campus, to talk to students and to share my little experience in the industry. It's been over 2 decades wherein I have walked quite a few steps, a lot more steps to walk through. And my talk is going to be based on the experiences that I've gathered, the little experience that I've had in the industry, working with individuals, talking to individuals, going through the steps, as you may like to call it. But I have a separate definition for what steps means and what it means to walk through the journey. The journey still goes on, and it's a great honor to be with Christ University and to be associated with the university and all of you youngsters. It's my humble attempt to be able to share my experiences going back over decades and how I'd like to be in your shoes. I'd like to look at it from your perspective, because my perspective may vary from your perspective. And this is how the world is, whether we like it or not, but we need to walk the journey. Before I get started on my talk, I would be talking about the perspectives. I'll be talking about careers with the focus on HR. And I would like to invite you to attentively listen to the best possible focus that you can give it. It's going to be about 40 minutes, 45 minutes max. Anjali is going to join me midway between my talk to have a quick chat, what we'd like to call it. It's not a panel discussion, it's not an interview, but it's a quick chat so that we could be at ground level with you, she being from Christ University. I was talking to you about the steps that we all take, and I would like to start with a story about the person who's still walking the 30 million steps. Started from Ethiopia, Paul Salope, the journalist, sponsored by National Geographic, and he has covered Ethiopia, he has covered parts of Eurasia, and now he is in Myanmar. What is he walking for? And I'm sure some of you may already know, but this fascinates me. And I've read quite a bit about Paul Salope, and I know that he is on his journey. And I'm also trying to figure out what exactly is going to happen at the end of it all. Paul Salope started walking in the year 2013 from Ethiopia. He is a journalist who was in fast journalism, working through the digital media, and said, let me work on a project, and I want to be on this project all by myself. And I want to walk the walk where our ancestors walked from parts of Ethiopia, which he says, anthropologists said that human beings evolved, Homo sapiens, more than 100 species of Homo sapiens evolved from Ethiopia and began walking, and they walked towards Arabia, they walked towards Eurasia, they walked towards the Far East, they walked through Siberia, China, Siberia. My geography is not very good, but whatever I can remember. And it's his map is there, and he would walk through the continents, and his walk would then go through the America continent and all the way south to Argentina. And that's when he'll complete this 30 million steps. And he does not know when he'll complete it. He's, of course, accompanied by people who support him, caring for his safety. And he also is accompanied by his wife sometimes because he's lonely, and she joins him on certain parts of the walk. The reason why I'm telling you about Salope is because he finds meaning in doing this, and he says that we are able to assimilate when we go slow, and we are able to assimilate when we walk at a speed of about 5 kilometers per hour. And that's how we are designed to be. We are able to be our optimum best at this speed. And he is talking about journalism, the slow journalism that he is into, moving away from fast journalism, which he finds it to be too fast for today's age to be able to assimilate. And as human beings, we are evolved to understand and assimilate much better when we are at an optimum pace of life. So that's what it translates to. And the stepping off the accelerating cycle of digital news and slowing down the pace and extracting a bit more meaning from his reporting process as a journalist. And that's what he finds meaning in life. This is a story that I wanted to start off with, I wanted to talk to you about. And it's a great thing for us to look at examples of certain people who are in certain walks of life, in certain careers, and how they are looking at the entire journey for themselves. So this is about steps, and I was also telling you about the steps that I have taken. So I'll be also talking a little bit about the steps that I have taken. Uh, I was introduced at the beginning of this session that I have about 2 decades of experience in HR. I started my career in the public sector, and as you may know, that the public sector, was one of our institutions built by the previous governments, socialistic republic that India was, to provide for the Indian economy, to provide for our infrastructure, to provide for our defense, to provide for the growth of India. So these were institutions that were set up with a lot of processes, a lot of policies, and which still continue and which go from day to day, because these are built on robust practices. So I had a bit of experience there. I was able to manage to be there for about 5 years. And those steps that I took through those hangars and through those stores and through the various shop floors and the departments were the steps that enabled me to uh, move on my journey. I moved from a public sector to a private enterprise, which was owned by, it was an entrepreneur, a private setup, which is out of the country. And that was my first venture out of the country, where I worked for about 7 years. Multinational experience, from a public sector to a multinational experience, working with several nationalities, uh, experiencing a lot about work, a lot about life, a lot about cultures, a lot about mannerisms, a lot of work as well interspersed. But then I thought my calling was back to my country. I came back to India. I joined a private sector, which was working with infrastructure projects, and EWI engineers is a part of EWI engineers and consultants, which are headquartered in Zurich. Uh, had a good experience working there, and they were dabbling as business partners with Oracle at that time, with specifically with Oracle UK, and that company got acquired by Oracle, and that's when I got absorbed into Oracle Corporation, Oracle India, and those were the steps that I have taken, and I continue to take those steps, working in this industry, working with people, working with business, working to transform lives and make meaning out of lives. So this is a little bit about my steps, and I'd like to just take a pause. You're not seeing the screen, or I don't have any slide at the moment. I just wanted to ask certain questions, and these are questions that you should also ask, and these are questions that I've asked before. What interests me? What do I get when I have? What do I get by doing this? What do I do when I get some time on hand? Do I have a hobby? Am I passionate about something? What branch of study interests me? It doesn't matter whether I have studied for my MBA in HR or I've studied in pure sciences, but what branch of study interests me other than my qualifications? What is my day job? What is my career? What is success? What are my values? What are my personal values? What are the values of others that I interact with? What are the values of the organization that I work for? What is my outlook in life? What is my personal statement? Have I a personal statement? What is my career anchor? And these are questions which need to be asked, and you need to go. You need to go over these questions again. Ask yourself the same questions, and I'm sure you will find the answers. Again, these are steps. This is a journey, and I'm sure that you will find meaning as you begin your career uh, in any walk of life. And now we're going to specifically talk about the area of HR. We're talking about uh, the various facets of HR, and as we look at the roles that are there in the industry, uh, how we need to maneuver, how we need to walk through, and this is what I'd like to share in the remaining part of my talk. In the space or in the age that we are in, uh, we are remotely connected, uh, and if you look at the jobs, if you look at working in organizations, if you look at places where we need to be at, for example, our study spaces, the spaces where we sometimes interact with people, when we collaborate with people, when we need to be looking across our four walls, when we need to smell the cheese around us. And these are the various facets, the various steps that will come our way, and we need to tread those steps. The age we are in today is connectedness. The age we are in today is remotely being connected. Work is all about networking. Work is all about making a difference. Work is about working with the other, finding meaning, and driving for ourselves and driving for others and driving for the organization. It's an amalgamation of all this, it's a mix of all this. And this is what we experience today. The remote working, which was thrust upon us, is something which we've not experienced, right? None of us have experienced this. And no age, we are told, has experienced such a slowdown where the world has stopped. Of course, the world stopped, but the wheels have begun to turn again and are moving. But do we have all the answers? No. Research still goes on. Will it happen again? We don't know. But one thing is sure, that if we have resilience, if we know where we belong, if we know what our anchor is, if we know what our value system is, that is something which will help us in our work. So today's career, today's uh, jobs and opportunities are all there, but we really would like to know which direction each of us is heading. Some of us are blessed in the sense that what we would like to do, we do. Sometimes what we will be doing is a day job, but then our career anchors and our passions will take us elsewhere as well to be able to align to our day job. So this is what each of us will go through. And from my experience, I have also gone through that. In the space of HR, we have many centers of excellence. And HR is in the center stage, needing to reinvent today's and tomorrow's work, and adapt to unparalleled global pandemic, social tensions, racial strife, and reinvent today's and tomorrow's work. When we talk about our uh, centers of excellence, for example, compensation and benefits, when we talk about working in organization where you're looking at salaries, you would be looking at specifically at analysis, numbers, what are the different types of rewards, reward mechanisms, salary structures, fixed salaries, variable salaries, the benefits, the insurance, the coordination and the discussions with several government authorities with respect to salary structures, whether we are in, in alignment with the law of the land, looking at compensation with respect to different jobs. For example, in a sales job, salaries may need to be looked at as fixed salary, commission salaries, sales commissions, uh, consulting salaries. So if it is compensation and benefits, and you are very inclined to work in compensation because you have a flair for numbers, your anchor is to be able to analyze data with respect to compensation. You'd like to look at compensation, benefits. Uh, we have another center of excellence, learning and development, uh, training, which is, in other words, it's training. It's looking at making a difference to employees' development, what employees learn, how employees can apply to their work, how employees can adapt to the changing environment, to pick up skills in line with their interest in the organization, to be aspiring for a different uh, position, for example, to be able to learn and develop. So that's learning. Uh, in talent acquisition, in recruitment, we have people who will look at talent in the market, learn the skills required, learn what it takes to get in the right person for the right job, to conduct interviews, to talk to the heads of the businesses, understand their staffing plans, look at the market, uh, analyze the market from various perspectives about the skills that are existing in the market, the skills that the industry wants. Uh, a center of excellence, which is HR operations, specifically to do with helping the business be successful, running the operations, looking at the compliance aspects, such as uh, the statutory compliances, the provident fund, the uh, ESI, the gratuity, the various acts, the evolving labor codes. In fact, the labor codes, the 4 labor codes, which have now been passed, which are to be effective from April, uh, which is an amalgamation of the 27 to 28 different labor acts. So the government is simplifying it with the labor codes. So, in a nutshell, that's about HR operations. Mobility, it's about people uh, who work in organizations and where the the employee is mobile, needs to go on for assignments overseas, work on overseas assignments, comply with the taxation laws of different countries, abide by the income tax rules, working across different countries, such that taxation is not double taxation. Looking at how it could be optimized for organizations working on global mobility. So that's another center of excellence. Data analytics, dealing with a lot of data, drawing insights from data, making sure that the business gets to understand the insights that can be drawn from this data, and presenting those insights to the business. That's about data analytics. Data privacy is about HR, data, privacy, personal information, understanding what is the privacy laws of the company, what can be admissible and what should not be admissible, personal identifiable information, awareness about that, and looking at the various gamuts of compliance with respect to data privacy. The HR function of partnering with the business, which is the strategic part of the HR function, which has moved from the tactical to the strategic role. Traditionally, it's been staffing and payroll for HR. That was the traditional function. But going forward, it's going to be a lot of strategy, working with the business in organizational planning and design, including strategic development, goal deployment, organizational design, leadership development, coaching, looking at high potential employees, developing high potential employees, and this is about the business partnering function. Compliance and ethics with respect to companies' internal policies, the law, looking at methods to address or redress harassment at the workplace, looking at investigations, seeing what is to be done so that you could prevent aspects such as harassment. You could prevent incidents which are in violation of company ethics, code of conduct. So that's about compliance and ethics. Diversity and inclusion, which is about inclusiveness. It's about getting people into the workspace. We come with different neural networks. There is a lot of differences amongst us. We could be coming with special abilities. If, in spite of our differences, in spite of our orientation, are we able to perform the job that is required, and can we provide the reasonable accommodation for such persons to be able to be employed in the organization? That's about diversity. That's about inclusion. It used to be diversity in gender, but today it has evolved into inclusiveness. It's about including the other person in the organization to carry out the role or the job that is expected. I'm sure all of you know the model, the Dewalt model, the role that a HR person plays, being a champion for employees, being an admin expert, being a change agent, and being a strategic partner. And this is very typical of a HR professional who works in the business, who works with the business, who is a very close partner with the business drivers. So much to say that indirectly, HR is also in the driver's seat, because this is the only function where you are associated with the CEO of the company. So, to give the different perspective, to be able to influence thousands of lives in the organization that you're working in, you're able to add value, and you are uh, an advocate for the company, you're an advocate for the employee. So the employee champion and the attention is on helping employees develop competence, generate commitment, and discover contribution to the organization. The admin expert delivers practices with efficiency. The change agent helps the organization adapt to new conditions. And the strategic partner uh, aligns HR practices with business strategies. So let me give you an example of that last one about aligning HR goals with the business goals. So let's take an example of a sales organization where you have a sales organization which needs to increase revenues by, say, X percentage. And if you look at HR, how could HR align to that goal of the business wanting to increase their sales revenue by X percentage? So from a HR perspective, you as a HR professional will need to understand from the business leaders, from the business head, from the CEO, as to what exactly do they mean by raising the revenues by X percentage, and how you could go about it. And with that input or with that information from the business, you would then want to go back to them and suggest that we could look at certain skills, we could look at certain competence, we could look at certain behaviors that we would like our employees to imbibe, certain skills that they would like to be given, which would help them to be able to achieve that sales increase. For example, another example, if you were to uh, take a session on, say, it's a training session on being able to manage crucial conversations, and the sales personnel who are out in the sales field to be able to sell the product of the company are able to influence through these crucial conversations the business partner, the customer, to be able to understand how or what the customer wants and to be able to sell appropriately. So it is that value added sale, it's that upsale, it's that upselling, it's the customer success that should be prime or important for the sales individual to be able to come back to the company and say, this is how I made the difference, and this is how I'd like to increase the sales revenue of the company. So we have looked at from my experience, we've looked at competence such as change agility. I've been able to manage the change. I've been able to look at sales function to be able to add more and more value to how I do my job or go about my job in being able to influence that sale number. Uh, the cycle of the employee cycle of staffing, planning, onboarding the employee, training, training and career development. Excuse me. policy compliance and administration, looking at how we could look at engaging with the employee, uh, training the employee, and retaining the employee. So it's the employee life cycle that we look at. This is not the typical order, but I'm just telling you that it it involves a large gamut of activities that a business partner HR would need to play. If you're looking at performance and talent management, it's about the profile of the employee. It's about what is my profile, what is my skills, what are my aspirations. Uh, as an employee, what do I want to be doing? What kind of assignment do I like? Do I like a overseas assignment? Am I aspiring for that? Uh, what are the steps that I need to take in my career? What are the steps that I need to take in being able to move ahead in my career? What skills have I picked up? How can I aspire within the company or outside of the company? What are the jobs available? Can I talk to my network? Can I speak to people who I can look up to as a coach? Uh, the company looks at the employees, the company looks at the profiles of the employees, the company does the review of the talent that the company possesses. There is a lot of decisions that uh, is a lot of decisions that are taken, like succession management, and HR facilitates the talent reviews. HR looks at the employee base. HR helps the business to be able to plot the employee talent on this grid that you see here, the performance versus the potential of the employee, the 9-box grid, which some organizations use, uh, plotting their top talent. And once this exercise is done, sometimes it's done every 6 months, sometimes it's done every year. It helps the organization to make certain decisions. Uh, and one of those decisions could be who's the right person to be doing that particular job, or who's the right person to be doing a job that is new, which who needs to be incorporated into a project, for example. It could be a person who's lined up to be the next CEO. Uh, and I'm sure you have read a lot of case studies about talent, about succession, how they look at the individuals who have a good performance track and also a potential. So if it's just performance, then uh, the person would not go up on the grid. But if it's high on performance and high on potential, then the person would be plotted in the top talent box. So this is how we help the business in looking at the talent and managing the talent of the organization. And this is how we look at working through that. We look at our careers. We look at how each of us in the HR space need to explore what is it that I'd like to do. Uh, we like to know what are the opportunities available. I'm sure all of you have that in mind. If I go into the industry, I'm hearing so much about centers of excellence. I'm hearing so much about business partnering. But what is it that is my passion? What is my interest? Am I very keen on looking at HR as a stepping stone to pursue one of my passions in life. I don't know, maybe one for some of you. For some of you, it may be that you want to be a coach. For some of you, it may be that training and development is close to your heart. Whatever it be, it's important that you need to reflect upon yourself. You need to build your skills. You need to focus, uh, and you need to look at how you could make the connection between the different dots. Uh, I'd like to invite Anjali. Anjali is my colleague. Uh, and Anjali, are you there? Would you just come on, please? Hi, Anjali. You're on mute.
Hi, Sajan. Hi, everybody.
Uh, well, Anjali, we just wanted to have a quick chat, and I thought it would be a good time for the students to hear uh, you being from the campus, Christ University. Uh, Talking about steps, what is the first step that you took, Anjali, when you were in Christ and Oracle was at campus, I believe? Yeah.
Yes, so I pursued my MBA in HR at Christ University, Institute of Management. And yes, of course, I sat for the placements and Oracle did come through. And the role that they were offering at that point in time was not exactly something that I was very keen on getting. But at that point in time, I thought Oracle's a great organization. It was one of the organizations that I had shortlisted that I really wanted to work for. So I went ahead and put myself through the interview, the selection process, and fortunately it worked out for me. And it was a very interesting first role that I had with Oracle, very different from what I thought when I was a student and I was attempting at the placements. It was quite different when I joined the role and the team and the work and everything from what we are taught as traditional HR. So again, I moved into one of the centers of excellence that Sarjan explained some time back, which is called the global mobility. So this you can relate more to the subject called international HR that we go through during the term of the course. So this is what it was all to do about. And although I really wanted to move into a generalist role initially, this is what came through. And at that point in time, my priority was to bag an opportunity with a prestigious, very coveted organization, and
So
Oracle
that
was it
so
for me.
that so that was the first step, and you got an opportunity, and you grabbed the opportunity,
Yes,
knowing
absolutely.
knowing knowing fully well that this was one of the uh, aspects that you did study about. So there was some linkage. What is the next step that you took, having joined the company, the large organization? Yeah.
Right. So after joining, of course, what we learn in class is just about a very minimal percentage of the real work that goes around. So there was a lot of learning. The learning curve was quite steep, especially like Sajan mentioned, this center of excellence was a lot to do about international taxation, people moving on assignments abroad, temporary assignments, the payroll that's set up for these employees who move abroad. A lot of perspectives, a lot of aspects to this, which I had to learn. So it was quite a steep learning journey. But again, during all of that time, I still had my mind set on where I wanted to be a few years down the line. So I just went with the flow. I learned global mobility well. I was able to visit the Oracle HQ as part of the team for one of the annual meetings that we had, where I was exposed to and I was given an opportunity to do a presentation to all of our vice presidents and all of the big leaders in the HQ. So I think again, just like I grabbed the opportunity when Oracle came in, with the team, I grabbed the learning opportunities. I did not let go of any opportunity where I could expose myself to more people, and I kept networking throughout that first stint of mine with Oracle. So I made
Yeah.
connections with people like Sajan, and I remember explicitly having gone to him and had a conversation about careers with him at that point in time. So guidance from various seniors in the organization helped me a great extent to figure out where I was headed next.
Now that you have moved from mobility to the business partner HR role, I believe that's a step that you took because you aimed for that step, right? And I remember you talking to me, and we had a couple of discussions. Uh, you networked with a few more people, and I believe that you pursued your aspiration, and you're there now. Having got into that, what exactly are you doing now? Can you just explain? Because I know that you're going through very rich experience.
Yes, absolutely, Sajjan. Agree with what you just said. It's a really rich experience, diverse experience, if you ask me, because when we move in as a fresher to a corporate, we only know, again, like I said, a percentage about what HR really is, and there's just so much more to it. So many centers of excellence and so many areas of work that we would have probably not given that much importance to. So now, after I moved to the HR business partner role, one of the biggest advantages I had moving here post my first stint was the fact that during the first stint, I kind of understood the systems and processes inside out. Through my networks, through the general work that I had, I took the opportunity to understand that. So currently, what I'm doing is it's a more of a generalist role. We take a kind of a dip into each of those centers of excellence. So as business partners, we take a little bit from all of those all of those areas of HR, and we take this to the business, including say something called like data analytics and all of that. And in this role, there is a larger opportunity for me to influence a lot of employees. So each of us HRs are tagged to a good number of employees, and this is a great opportunity for us to bring in our expertise from various other areas of HR as well. So we put all the information together. We of course we take care of processes and all of that, but as a big part of it, when we go to the business leaders with data, it's really nice connecting with them and knowing that as HRs we are able to also influence some of the business
Great.
decisions.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Anjali, and it was great to have you here. This was a perspective that we wanted to talk about. Quick look at the time. We are almost near the end, and we need to stop for questions. So I'll just take just a few more minutes before uh, we could stop and take questions. So we did speak about the exploration that Anjali did, and how she took a role and then she went on to make a role for herself, building on skills, and she's continuing in that journey. The focus, the connection, the networking that you need to do. You need to work with people, and you need to uh, let people know that you are on your journey, you are on your steps, and you like to take these steps forward, because that's what at the end of the day brings you meaning. And I'm sure that each of us on our own journeys, we work with our passions, we have our own uh, mission statements, what we've written down. Mission statements can get rewritten. We have skills and strengths that we bring to the table. And at the end of the day, you are a leader in your own way. As a HR professional, you are a leader because people look up to you for your advice. And we, as HR professionals, bring a perspective, and we bring wisdom to the table. And CEOs would like to hear from HR because we bring a different perspective. We are service oriented people by and large, unless, of course, we are not looking at the other aspects, the Dewalt Rich model, where we're looking at the employee champion. We are also looking at being an admin expert, the strategic business partner, and the change agent. All this go hand in hand. You cannot just be very focused on one particular area. And if you are very focused on just one of those areas, then according to me, there's not going to be a mix of everything to make you a service oriented professional. We influence and we grow in our own leadership journey. Today, this is my last slide. Today, we are uh, in the new way of doing things. And I told you earlier that we need to connect. We are working remotely. We continue to work from our homes. Many organizations continue to work from their homes. Some organizations have gone back. Learning centers, colleges have begun because we know what it takes to go out into the world, taking the right steps during this pandemic. But this will pass. We need to focus, we need to build resilience, and we need to have those uh, passions, those interests, and what I spoke to you earlier. And I recently read about the different ways we could hacking the happiness chemicals like dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, and the serotins. So these are uh, happiness chemicals which we all have. We need to hack into it. We need to move on. We need to pursue, and we need to continue in our journey. With that, I'd like to stop, and we could take questions.
Thank you, sir, for your eloquent talk. I'm sure that the students and audience would have earned an extensive amount of knowledge from your presentation. I would also like to thank Ms. Anjali Balachandran. And I must say that the quick chat you were involved in has quite indeed inspired us to learn from experience. So now we would like to proceed to the Q&A session. As mentioned earlier, requesting the audience to type in their questions in the comment section of the YouTube live stream. I will be reading out the questions for you, sir. We do have a couple of questions in our chat box right now. So, question number one. So, do you see any shifts in dimensions of HRM due to the ongoing changes in technology and environment? And if so, what would be the skill set required for future professionals in HRM?
I see a shift in the way technology is driving our work. We see a lot of change happening in the functional space, wherein we keep uh, we look at imbibing skills which are related to systems. For example, in the company that we work, Oracle HCM, uh, HR works in the space because you have the affinity to use these tools. You have the affinity to work on functional consulting with clients on using these tools. So once we have the background, we have the theory, how do we apply to the system? So I see that as one of the future evolution of the role, getting into functional consulting, and core HR uh, can evolve into functional consulting. And it's a good question. So this is an area that is growing. As I speak, I know of someone who joined from campus, who joined into recruitment space, and today is working as a consultant in uh, Tadio HCM consulting. So that's a short answer to that good question.
So, question number two. What's the gap that you find between the opportunities outside the country and in India?
Uh, from from the job perspective, the opportunities are galore. If you're looking at, I believe the question is very focused on as a HR question. So there could be spaces that come up from a role perspective in an organization. Suppose that organization has branches overseas and HR professionals who aspire to work overseas, for example, in systems, for example, in analytics. Uh, there is a flair for people who work on numbers to be able to use analytical skills. Uh, there are there is scope for opportunities in HR even overseas. So the gaps I would find, to be specific to the question, there are certain gaps, and those gaps are brought about mainly because of uh, restrictions on mobility with respect to long-term assignments, work permits, laws of the land, opportunities that exist for uh, nationals in preference to Indian nationals. right? So there could be limitations, but the areas of analytics, the areas of data science, HR systems, etc., there is opportunity. So there could be some gaps, but there are opportunities, is what I would like to answer.
We have another question, sir. Question number 3 would be, how can one pursue HR through humanities and what is its scope? And how can one start off in the field after class 12th? And this is a question that has been repeated twice.
Was that from class 12? A student from class
Yes,
12.
sir.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I remember reading an article in the Hindu on humanities, and why does humanities stick as compared to other courses? It gives you the broad perspective. It gives you opportunities to be able to debate and thrash through issues, understand aspects of work, aspects of development, socio, eco development, not just the math or the analytical part. So, having aspired to get into HR, to work with processes, to work on development, to work on employee life cycle, for example, getting into training, getting into coaching, starting your own firm on skill development, working on projects with the government of India on skill development, finding job opportunities for the sectors that show potential. And these are areas that people who aspire to get into HR with a background in humanities can aspire to do. And I think humanities is most suitable for being able to have a blended career in HR. We do, having said that, we do find a lot of professionals who have completed their engineering and have pursued MBA specifically in HR. And that again is a different shift. It's a shift in career. It's a shift in focus. That's because your aspiration has made you to look at something different. And from my experience, it's all about your opportunities that you can influence. Of course, opportunities don't come to everybody, but then you can work through making those opportunities available to you. May not be 100%, but look at learning, look at how what you have learned can be applied to the workforce. And I think the opportunity is immense.
So, due to paucity of time, I'll be asking you another question. That'll be the last one. So, what is Oracle doing to increase women participation in leadership positions? And also, how are you making your HR personnel tech savvy?
Let me answer the first question first. Diversity and inclusion, which I spoke about, diversity with respect to gender, increasing the women participation leadership, focused on women leadership programs. We do look at specific technical leadership programs for women in technical roles. We look at developing women who are in their midstream of their career so that we are able to support the women's growth given the socio factors that are associated with women in careers. So we look at being able to look at returnship, women who need to take a break because of family reasons. So we look at schemes to have women come back to work. So these are the various aspects that we look at women increasing the women leadership in Oracle. So there's a constant focus on that. And as we speak, there is Women in Tech Roles program, and Women Leadership program has been in vogue for quite a few years. The second part of your question, can you just repeat that, please?
Yes, sir. So, how are you making your HR personal tech savvy at Oracle?
Yeah. So we are exposed to business, the business around us. We are exposed to business talks by leaders. We understand the business. We have to use our Oracle systems. We have a self-service culture. So we have to use the applications. We need to be knowing our systems. Of course, where we get a bit stranded, we go to our IT, but then we have learned quite a bit on our remote connectivity. And specifically with respect to HCM, which is our functional area, we go to forums to address customers. We walk with the sales professionals in being able to be ambassadors of our product, because we use the product, so we need to sell our product. So, and there are people who also have the flair to work on systems, so they do learn the essential bits of the technical languages to be able to use the tools and tackles required to be performing the job well. So these are the various things that enable us to become tech savvy, and it is still a journey. We are all not tech savvy, but we are encouraged to read up. We're encouraged to learn and use the hands-on approach. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Due to time constraints, unfortunately, we will not be taking up any more questions from the audience, but we definitely appreciate your active participation in the session. Thank you, sir, for answering all the queries from our audience side. Gratitude is a powerful tool, and that it definitely opens door to positivity, happiness, and kindness. By keeping that thought in mind, I would like to express my profound gratitude to everyone who has contributed to make this event a successful one. On behalf of the University Student Council and management of Christ Deemed to be University, I take this opportunity to thank our keynote speaker, Sajan Matai, for taking out his time out of his busy schedule and gracing us with his presence and enlightening us with his deep-rooted knowledge in their field of expertise. I would also like to thank the Controller of Examination and Director of Student Council, Professor Johnny Joseph Sir, who have always inspired and encouraged us. Heartfelt thanks to all the faculty coordinators of Student Council for their continuous guidance and motivation. I would like to acknowledge and appreciate the efforts from my fellow University Student Council members who are part of the event, technical, and logistics committees of their consistent support, with which the smooth conduct of this event would not have been possible. Last but not least, I thank all the Christites present and all the external participants for joining us and being such a wonderful and participative audience. The session has officially concluded.